All right, here we have Bitcoin on CME 4-hour time frame, and of course, what happened in the last 24 hours since we last spoke. Bitcoin did get rejected by the same area that we've had marked off from the 7th of December highs, the range highs essentially, and this is a good time to kind of be curtailing back and just simplifying here. When you're looking at ranges, what's the most likely thing to happen on a range test? You're likely to, in this case, pull back from it, and on a range low, you're likely to bounce up from it. Bless you, sir. Elsa's sneezing in the background in case you're wondering what that noise is. And more importantly, with this, is this a devastating blow to Bitcoin right now? I would say not necessarily just yet. However, there are a few things to be aware of right now that would indicate that and very likely insinuate another test back down, ultimately to our range lows, which is of course in the $46,000 to $47,000 region right now. Anyways, what essentially am I looking for right now? Well, Bitcoin is dancing on the 55 exponential average, which I do look at as an area to put in a higher low if trend does remain to the upside. Now, there are a few things supporting this. One would be the 4-hour RSI would have, technically speaking, hidden bullish evidence if we do confirm a local low right here. What would be necessary in order to confirm a local low right there? Well, we'd want to see if we're looking for a bit of a range reversal on the short-term time frames. A closure back above at no less $50,000 on a 4-hour time frame would look pretty damn good. Or if you want to get super granular with it, well, $50,000 probably works in this case. And then yes, I would be looking at that as confirmed hidden bullish divergence, and Bitcoin probably does trudge sideways and up from there. Here's the thing though, and what I do not like about this current setup as it is that the 4-hour BBWP is actually at the highs right now, and we really want to see BBWP contracted below about 20 percentile or 25 percentile at minimum when we are looking for higher lows on on a strategy like that. Now, it should also be known that Bitcoin is basing off on the daily 200 moving average on CME as well, and as long as Bitcoin is above there, it's not like the best risk reward trade to be like selling into a major area like that in my experience, as well as a short-term range low right here as well that is still operating on a higher low basis. However, there should be a few things known about momentum over here. So we're going to go into the short-term timeframes for CMEs first, and we do see 4-hour Stokes going to be corrective here at best, as long as Bitcoin's below 51,600. Thank you, baby. I got some nice Finnish water. It's really, really good. I strongly recommend. Anyways, water good. Water equal good. 3 hours also correcting here as well, as long as we're below about $52,000, and bi-hourly is corrective as long as below 51,300, and hourly is also flip-floppy around. We'll be turning up above 49,100 or so. So keep all those numbers in mind. And basically, what would I call the short and medium term time frame range essentially being resolved in this case to the downside, meaning no higher low right here, and very likely Bitcoin coming back down over the next maybe week or so back down to the range lows. Well, that would be either with a 4-hour closure below our current wick low, which is about 48,665 on CME. Again, this is the most clean and clear chart. If you're using spot price action, obviously whatever the low of the 4-hour dildo is right there. Could we use an hourly in this case as well? It's going to be a little bit more delicate in an hourly case. I'd say below about 48,400 would be rather concerning, of course, but I would not feel as confident with that. So here's the thing, and here's what I kind of want to wrap up this whole talk with, is the daily right here. And I want to go back to this chart that we've been following for a very long time now, about a month now, talking about this signal. So I'm going to put back on my drawing tools, and I want to talk about the daily stochastic momentum on CME specifically. And we're going to take this 1 or 2 steps deeper on this particular video as we follow up on the signal that we've been watching for the past, like I said, about 3 to 4 weeks now, actually. And what is it essentially? Okay, so first things first, all of these blue vertical bars, of which there are 8 of them, not including the ones that are very, 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 very close to each other. We're going to get to that in a second here. But all of them represent the same sort of territory being hit on the daily stochastic momentum indicator, which is that test down to this green lower horizontal bar right here. And as you can see, pretty much all of these, or sorry, not pretty much all of these have produced some pretty impressive bounces, even within the context of very nasty, heavy downside bearish markets. I'll take the worst of these iterations, the worst performing signal from that from that fractal signal was back on over here in August 2018, and even that one did produce about a 26-27% move to the upside. And as of right now, from our current signal low, do we have a comparable bounce to that? Well, let's measure it out actually. And no, well, I would argue no. Of course, you make your decision for yourself. Obviously, it's about a 12% bounce from low to high in this case. And of course, that implies, or at least to me, that we are missing a few other things. So what could we possibly be missing right here, or what is the full picture in this case? case. As you see, or as you can very likely see, I've highlighted 3 of these iterations of the signal that kind of align with our current one that is going on, or sorry, that would be the 3rd one actually. Now, first and foremost, all of these iterations are accompanied by the same technical formation. In this case, we have an ascending triangle. In this case over here in March 2020, we also have an ascending triangle. And more recently in this gigantic one, we've been essentially putting in an ascending triangle for the past 9 months or so, assuming that the weekly higher low does hold. Where's your weekly higher low coming in from? Well, anywhere above $41,000 is a higher low on the weekly right there. So that is very much worth knowing in this case. Otherwise, below there, that destroys the whole like long-term macro bullish setup, at least in my eyes. And you could probably be looking forward towards price action into the low $30,000 territory for what it's worth. Anyways, I want to take this, and here's where we're going to take this a few steps deeper. So on these signals, sorry, we're not actually there just yet. I need to explain this part. Apologies. But basically, the signal itself is in this red highlighted area right here, where you see essentially a base at the green horizontal region, a couple rejections after testing it a couple times, and then acceptance after at least 2, and on this case, 3 back above the critical zone. So keep that one in mind. We're going to go back to the March 2021. That's this one right here, where you do see first test rejected, second test accepted, and off to the races after that. And then, of course, the one before that was at your cycle lows, your macro cycle lows in this case, 3100 from December 2018, January 2019 region, where you see first test reject, second test reject, third test accepted. This one is incredibly similar to the one that we're working on right now. Now, here's what I want to talk about today that is actually new so that we can follow up on this. Now, you'll notice that even though these signals did produce, some pretty impressive macro lows in this case, it did take some time from that signal given. And then more importantly, you do see that this first move up towards your range highs, towards your fucking range highs yet again, was rejected and did lead into your next higher low. So I wanted to mark off the area at which we saw this rejection happen. It's right about here, pretty much right at the edge of the bullish control zone at the 60 read, as you can see. And well, you see top number 1, top number 2 on this test of the range highs. Obviously, that did actually lead back down towards a move pretty much around the lows, actually. So this was not just like the next fucking day, Bitcoin to the moon. No, it took about 2 months of just putting in higher lows after higher lows after higher lows consistently. And then, yeah, it was fucking green dildo party to the moon and beyond. Great, busted in action all the way through. Anyways, we see the same thing back on over here as well. What do you fucking know? Bitcoin pops up. We see daily stochastic momentum get all the way up to that same green horizontal region. And guess where the fuck that is? That's at the high of this range. Basically your prior breakdown right here. It's not actually perfectly done, but you get the point. But basically this prior breakdown right here tests the highs right there, reject, comes back down, sets in a higher low. Yes, but this takes a long time over here. Understand that these things do require, well, patience, I do suppose. So when we're looking at our current area right now, with Bitcoin essentially testing its current range highs, well, what do you expect? You expect a bit of a pullback. And guess what? The daily stochastic momentum is actually going to test into that region today. Assuming that Bitcoin just doesn't close below $46,000 today, we will see this obviously continue up, and it'll end somewhere around this projection, as you can see with these 2 little dots right here. So that would be right around the same fucking region that we did see the last 2 ones put in their first sort of range highs and then pull back. That pullback led into the higher low. That higher low was the highest low, was the lowest low ever before, never going below it ever again on both of those iterations for specifically CME yet again right here. So I thought that was rather interesting and perhaps worth knowing. What would invalidate this as essential, as an essential trade idea or an essential setup? Well, obviously, if we are going to be running with that assumption, we would expect that Bitcoin does not close anywhere lower below about 46,800 or so on CME specifically, on a daily closure specifically as well. So could Bitcoin come down to where it is right now and then reverse? Perhaps yes, although it doesn't necessarily look too strong right there, to be honest with you. Could it come down a little bit lower and put in an ever so slightly higher low, maybe at the retest of that falling channel? Possible, I suppose, as well. I suppose that would be the bullish view, and then pops back above that critical $52,000 region. If you see anything like that, that's going to look really, really good. I suppose the more recent, the more immediate hopium is that Bitcoin's putting in its higher low right here on a short-term time frame, like a 4 hour. Well, it's possible, yes. Again, it's certainly not destroyed as an opportunity just yet, but understand where that certainly does get destroyed and where the next sort of regions to be aware of are. It's probably somewhere down around, like I said, about 47, maybe 47,500 or so is where I'd be looking for on a potential higher low. That would look really fucking good for the long term if Bitcoin does fill this area right here. What would look very bad for the long term is Bitcoin closing on new lows. That negates everything of this potential setup for the long term. And, well, and get ready for the red dildo party, I guess, after that. So fair enough. Anyways, Again, $52,000 right here is the big, bad, magical number towards the upside. As long as Bitcoin's below there, can't really get too excited about any sort of major, massive moves that we've been saying over the past few days, or even like a week now, or 2 weeks, or whatever the hell it's been. If Bitcoin does pop back above there, I am looking for Bitcoin to essentially pop back up significantly, somewhere around $58,000 to $59,000 prior highs from this breakdown. That's going to look really, 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 really good for the long term, obviously, and confirm all sorts of momentum oscillators for hidden bullish divergence plays on some pretty damn powerful time frames. We have the weekly right here, which is, I mean, technically already confirmed. So, you know, it does align with the probabilities of Bitcoin coming back down, maybe backfilling last week's open and then trying some upside from there. That's kind of where I'm at right now, but I wouldn't necessarily front run any of these conditions because, you know, we are looking at really, really big numbers from this current region. So understand what the general sort of idea is here. And then of course, I want to bring this chart out as well. This chart being this chart I should have showed yesterday. I don't think that I did show it yesterday. And by the way, we have an update on it to be made. But basically, we were essentially trying to time this current consolidation. This consolidation, meaning that a resolution either above $52,000 or below the range lows at about $46,000, essentially has been very much in line with all the past historical iterations of this. So let me kind of start back from the last year. Of course, we could go back further than this, but I thought that this was good enough. So this is going back to January over here. You can see that there was about 11 days on the highs, on the distributive highs right here, and that was resolved by about 11 days on the accumulation lows. Kind of makes sense from a Wyckoff perspective in the sense that, you know, your causes leads to an effect, and building up a greater cause, you know, essentially consolidating for a long period of time typically leads towards a greater effect. I mean, you see this like quite literally in the next distributive phase right here on 60 days, we get a fucking phenomenally nasty downside move from 60,000 all the way to 30,000, which was resolved by another 63 day long accumulation on the other side. Bitcoin puts in a massive bear trap at $30,000 going all the way up to 53. And then guess what? You get some distribution over here over 14 days, resolved by 10 days on the other side for the accumulation. Bitcoin marches onwards and upwards, completes the current all-time high, and then we spend about 26 days distributing on the high in everyone's face, or in you know what the fuck I mean. And then of course, this 26-day long distribution phase over here, well, right now it is starting to be more and more relevant that Bitcoin is, well, you know, charging up towards this one and looking for a resolution sooner rather than later. So I do believe that this would align with Bitcoin in a more bullish sense long term, just because we are still operating at higher lows. We are a lot closer to the topside resolution of this range. And again, it doesn't need to be exactly 26 days. We see a bit of divergence in some of these numbers. It's slight, yes, but it is comparable more importantly. So whether it's, you know, 24 days, which is what we're working on right now, from basically the 4th of December to where we're at on the 28th of December, or whether it's a few days afterwards, maybe as much as 30 days rather than 26 days, for example. You know, that's kind of where I'm looking for on the resolution of this. And because Bitcoin is closer to the topside resolution of this, which by the way is now in line basically with the 55 exponential average for the daily, which would be massive for Bitcoin to reclaim to the upside, that would look really, 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 really good. And, you know, I still do put the probabilities on an upside resolution for Bitcoin specifically, and by extension, the rest of the market as well, to be fair. Specifically, as long as Bitcoin especially is above the 200 simple moon average right here on a daily closing basis. Below there, things start to look a lot more nasty, we'll say. So do I think that this is front runnable by a 4-hour closure? I did kind of insinuate that earlier. It probably is in this case, to be quite honest with you. A 4-hour closure below our current wick low, or a daily closure by end of day in the next 17 hours, 26 minutes and 16 seconds would probably do it for me. Until then, it's going to be a lot of watching, wishing, waiting, whatever the fuck that saying is. And I think that is a good place to kind of leave this one off. And hopefully that was in some way helpful for that analysis. Please be aware of where all the invalidations are. Please be aware of what the greater picture is kind of looking like. And well, at the end of the day, hopefully that was helpful and in some way valuable. There you go, sirs and sirs. Maybe even consider hitting the like and dirt button.